This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Greetings, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I have a conversation with the singer of one of my favourite new groups to share with you. I'm talking about Emma Näslund from the Swedish outfit Gaupa. Now, the catalyst for the conversation with Emma is due to the launch of a new album. It's their second from Gaupa. It is titled Myriad, and it's their first for Nuclear Blast. Now, this conversation here, when I say it's special, I love being able to get to the bottom of things with a vocalist in a killer band. And that's exactly what we do here. We talk about all sorts of topics. It's a bit of a Pandora's box, if you will, of topics. So it's one of those conversations that I want you to sit back and relax and just take it all in because, yeah, Emma and I, we have a very expansive chat about all sorts of things, mostly related to Gaupa, but, you know, we're human, so we talk about life as well. If you have tuned in via the podcast apps, you're in for a treat because I'm going to share a tune from the album Myriad with you. This one is titled Diametrical Enchantress. Unfortunately, if you're listening and watching via YouTube, I can't share the tune. You guys know how it is with bloody YouTube, unfortunately. But do check out Diametrical Enchantress on YouTube if you're already on the platform. Either way, you'll either soon hear from Emma or here she is right now. Let's go. Here she is. How you going?
Hello. Yeah, it's all right. How you doing?
Plugging away. It's never a dull moment, I've got to say. At the moment, it's just one thing after another, but I'm not complaining. It's just the busy life at the moment. What can I say? Between uni and work and family shit, and then musical pursuits. I'm sure you know all about it to some extent.
To some extent, yeah. The puzzle of life.
The puzzle of life. That's a very good way to put it. It's just making sure that everything fits in rather than jamming everything in.
Yeah.
You know, how's the calls and the meetings, the Zoom meetings, these sort of things? How have they been going on the promotional trail for the album?
I think well. I hope well. It's been very nice to talk to different people, and you know, I'm surprised that people have an interest in what we do. So it's very. I'm very grateful to be able to do some interviews.
Yeah. Well, there's two matters at play there. Okay, you're a great band, so I'll say that to begin with. I mean, you're not a great band if you are a great band, but the fact that Nuclear Blast have taken an interest in you, that just adds to the whole thing. And of course, Nuclear Blast have now given you this platform that you can't get independently, can you?
No, I would say it's a huge difference now. We have someone asks us, when are you available to do interviews? And then we just pencil in a little schedule. And then it's like, all right, this time, click on this link and we get transferred to, like you, I get to meet you now in this way. And this is a huge help, of course. We never had like someone who concerned themselves with PR. So that's very helpful for sure.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but as I say, the quality's there. I'm loving this album, by the way, Myriad. It took me by surprise, I've got to say. You get a lot of stuff sent to you, as you can appreciate. But I'm in my mid-40s, as people that listen to my podcast don't like me reminding everybody, but I am. And the reason I say that is because people who listen to me were virtually the same age, so I get a lot of older people listening to my show compared to the 20-year-olds I'm talking about. So, but the detail in that is that I come from the 90s, okay? So that's my formative period. And bands like the Jesus Lizard, Rage Against the Machine, Tool, this sort of thing, they're part of the musical wallpaper I grew up with. Even if you didn't like the bands, they were there whether you liked it or not, Pearl Jam, etc. Yeah. But on the heavier side of things, before you got into death metal, these were the groups that were around. Now, particularly Jesus Lizard, I don't know, I can probably say for sure without knowing for a fact, nobody's given you that feedback before, that you have elements of their sound in your sound, which I think it's a wonderful thing. And one thing I can almost say for certain is people have given you feedback about Bjork as well. Okay. So I've certainly heard that too, but I don't think that's quite on the money though, to be quite honest with you. I think that's just an easy way out for people to go, it's a heavier version of Bjork. No, it's not. Okay, sorry, I know this is a bit of a long one and I tend to do that, but bear with me.
That's all right.
What I find is you got plenty of groove, which is what I love. I love the groove that you guys have got. Then you've got your vocal over the top of it, which just matches everything very well. And my favourite cut so far from you guys is Diametrical Enchantress. So I've thrown a lot at you then. There's probably been a lot to absorb, but do you agree with some of what I've said or all of what I've said?
Sure. yeah. Of course, you have a point. Thank you for saying the nice things, and it's always great to hear. I think a lot of people, when you hear music, people tend to try to sum it up as easily as possible. Oh, this band sounds exactly like this and this and this, and that's it. Like, you know. So I think people think it's so important to put everything in a box, like different genres and different everything. And for us, this is just what happens. We sound the way we sound because it's the five of us coming together to create music. If someone comes with a riff and it's like, hey guys, what do you think of this? And we jam on it for a while. Every time when everyone is in this process together, the songs take on a different shape, and it starts out like one thing, and then it becomes what it ultimately is, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
but we have a lot of different influences in the band as well. We can agree on some bands, like, oh, this band, I like this band, and another guy in the band might like the same band. For example, me and Daniel, we bonded over the love for Queens of the Stone Age and Caius.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that too.
Of course. Yeah. And bands, and me and David, we some years ago, we realized that we both really liked a band called Gentle Giant.
Yeah, prog band. I know them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good band.
So we come together on different and agree on different bands that we really like. So I think our sound is a mix of all of us. We have different musical backgrounds. We have been in different bands and projects before this band, and it all comes together and just ends up like this.
Yeah, it sounds like Myriad. There you go. The songs that are on Myriad.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. So do you guys hammer things out in a rehearsal room, or do you share ideas virtually by file sharing?
Virtually and in the rehearsal rooms, I would say. We use Drive a lot. So sometimes you can put up a riff in Drive and people listen to it, and then we try it out in the rehearsal pit. Sometimes we jam on something and we record it with a cell phone, and we'll put it again in the computer, and then I put it in my home studio, and I work with sounds and harmonies and try out lyric ideas. Because not when it comes to lyrics, it doesn't always just fall out of your mouth. It's on Diametrical Enchantress, it did. We were jamming on it, me, Jimmy, and David, and I just said words, and it was like, yes, this is. I'm going to keep a lot of this. Yeah, but that doesn't happen a lot. Sometimes you need to think it through and throw around the words, and sometimes I will improvise like how I would like to sing, and then put words that sound like the sounds I made.
That's interesting. I think James Hetfield does the same thing.
Didn't know.
Yeah, because I remember buying, I don't know that for a fact, as I say, but I remember buying the single for Until It Sleeps back in 96 when it first came out. And it had a version of the song where he was making word sounds, and you could hear that he was trying to fit syllables and words into certain spaces where eventually lyrics would happen. So it's a very good way of doing things and hammering things out.
I think it's. I found that it could be hard in the beginning as a singer to jam, because you're kind of bound to, I don't know what to sing. I want to have some sort of lyric that I can sing to this blues or whatever. But I think if you make up words and sounds, you can improvise easier.
Yeah. Just talking about the overall package of Myriad again. So it's your second album, I understand. And okay, so we've talked about the Nuclear Blast thing, but I did listen to your first album as well, and that's a great riffs. Everything's there, but it's unmistakable that there's a jump. There's quite a big jump in terms of the quality of songwriting and the production and the overall package. Do you agree with what I've said, or do you feel like as though there's not been as much of an obvious jump between the two?
I guess for us, it's not very obvious because it's, as I said, it's the five of us writing songs. But I guess you evolve all the time. And the guy that records us, he's been recording everything we ever recorded. And he grows and evolves as well. And you get better with time, I guess. So hopefully you're leveling up.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah, the debut's great too, but you've got two very good albums out there at the moment. So,
thank you.
With is the album released yet? Sorry, I should check that. But is Myriad actually out there on Spotify for people?
No, it comes out, I believe, next week.
Next week, is it? Okay. All right. So people won't have well, most of the people listen to this in the next sort of week or so that they might not actually have the references that I'm talking about there. But yeah, it's what I like about the production quality here. It's more intense. So your sound doesn't change too much. Like it's not like you got louder and angrier, but it's more intense. I think it's captured more of that intense vibe that you've got. And a lot of that does come down to your voice. So I already talked about the musicians and they're able to groove. But you've got a mighty voice in that you can whisper and you can roar, but you've got a white knuckle intensity about it. I feel it's like you're not holding back. You're getting right into it. I was listening to Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill today, and I was thinking, wow, you guys are nothing alike, but you're in a similar ballpark in terms of your emotive qualities. So, were you taught to sing, and can you tell me how you developed that vocal technique that you've got?
Yeah, I practiced. Well, I went to some music schools and I had like some lessons in singing, but I would say it didn't do a lot for me. Some lessons were okay, but mostly I collect sounds. I'm very fascinated by sounds you can make with your own voice, and you practice your craft like any other musician, I would say. And I think for me it was a key thing not to be afraid to sing not so pretty. Because a lot of girls growing up, they want to sing very pretty and very perfect, and I'm not really like that. I'm more interested in sounds and different techniques. And of course, you have to when you rehearse vocals and you try to wheel your voice in a certain way, you will discover what comes natural to your vocal cords. And for me, the way I sing, it comes natural, and I was able to access a wider range in my voice.
Okay. Yes. Now, you've got a broad range. Okay. So, do the lyrical themes? So, when you're singing about certain lyrical themes, does that determine how intense your vocal is?
Good question. I don't know, actually.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I know, because it's. Yeah, I mean, how you're feeling at the time can also influence the way you sing in the studio at the time. This sort of thing.
Yeah, but I guess it varies a lot for me. But something that I have thought about is when we're going to do live shows, I find myself thinking, oh my God, in every song there's something major happening. And I was like, if you sung more normal, perhaps you could easier do longer shows. So you have to keep it up. You have to practice. It's like with when you work out, you have to work out to keep your body in a certain shape. So I think it's the same with the vocals.
So true. Yeah, you feel that, don't you? After you haven't been singing or playing for a few weeks or so, then you go back on stage and do it. You're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm being slammed.
Yeah, so I have to practice a lot for May, especially next year when we're going out on tour.
Who are you touring with?
We're touring with Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats and Blood Ceremony.
Okay, I'm not familiar. Tell me, because I was going to – this is a good segue because Nuclear Blast don't have a lot of bands like you guys, okay? And I know you got a different management, the label's different to the management company and the tours are organised differently. But who would I pair you guys with? And, the one band I was thinking you'd go down great with, and I hope this happens, Corrosion of Conformity, because they're a Nuclear Blast. Mm-hmm. That would be perfect.
Oh, right.
Oh, perfect. Oh, you guys would be a match made in heaven from a fan's perspective. But Blood Ceremony and the other band that you mentioned there, are they in a similar style to you guys or different?
Well, in some ways. I guess a thing we have is that we are not only a rock band or only a metal band. So we are easier in that way, I would think, to put together with different bands, that it would be okay. But you haven't listened to Uncle Acid?
No, I first time hearing of the band.
Oh,
must
do
confess,
it.
so I'll check them out.
Very nice. Yeah. Oh, you have a listen. It's great stuff.
Where are they from?
Good question. Not Sweden.
They're European, I take it, are they?
Yeah, I think so. But I should remember this,
Uncle
but I
Acid,
don't.
yeah. I get so much stuff sent to me. I tend to my orbit tends to revolve around the people who send me the songs, and it's John from Nuclear Blast and a few other people, and I get hundreds. John's a lovely fella. I get hundreds of stuff sent to me a week sometimes because I've got a music show as well. I've been playing you guys on my music show. I've enjoyed.
All right.
Yeah, when John started drip feeding through the stuff, I thought I'll give these guys a listen, and I'm like, shit, this is left of center for what normally comes through. So I'm liking this because you get all this death metal stuff, which I love, by the way. I'm not criticizing death and black metal and extreme metal, but you've got to have some different stuff in there, so as though you have you're listening to music, but you have a break from listening to that sort of music too. So you look forward to getting back into it. But it just so happens that you guys are enjoyable to listen to at the same time, so it's not a chore, if that makes sense.
Endurable to listen to. It's nice.
There you go. It's almost a compliment. There you go.
Yeah, it sums it up pretty well. No, but it's still very strange for us that people in different parts of the world listen to what we do and actually care. And it's very strange.
This could be the beginning of really big things for you guys, though, for the whole band. Do you feel that way? Given that it is your introduction to first time maybe talking to people in Australia and maybe even the US, that sort of thing?
Well, hopefully. But, we are just as we are. So you don't feel like, oh, yeah, we're going to be super big. That's a very strange thing to even think. We're just happy that people like what we do. And, when you play a show, it's nice if someone attends and that it's not just our friends and family who, supports the band. We have reached quite a few people at this time, but it's just us, So we don't, I don't think any of us feels like it's going to be super big, but it's a dream, of course, to be able to play music and ultimately not have to have a lot of day jobs.
Yeah.
But
are you at that point? Are you at that point where you can ditch all of the, when I say distractions, can you just focus on the music at this point from a financial perspective?
No, unfortunately not. When Jimmy called me and said, "Oh, we got an email from Nuclear Blast," I was like, "All right," and I went and quit one of my day jobs.
One of them, that sort of tells the story, though, doesn't it?
One of them. It's just. No, but you're not in it for the money. But it would be nice.
I think you need to be rewarded. I mean, this is the issue. I mean, I've not been paid a cent for doing this for years. I mean, I don't expect to be, by the way. It's beside the point when you're podcasting. Yeah, I mean, you do it. Rob Zombie said years ago, you do it because you do it anyway.
Yeah, it's just something you have to create. You have to be creative, and some people paint and some people write songs. It's just something that needs to come out from the inside, I would say. And I know for a fact that when I wasn't in a band at a moment, and other guys in the band as well, when you didn't have a band, you get very depressed.
Yeah, I can relate big time. Yeah, if I don't do this and if I don't play music, I feel not me. That's the easiest way of describing it. It's tough work. I mean, it's as you know, it's you've already said it. You got to practice all the time, and you got to keep on doing things. And there's never a moment where maybe when you're going to bed, sleeping. That's the only time you get. But otherwise, it's all work. But it's work that you choose to do.
Yeah, of course. And when you go to bed, I've had a lot of problems of falling asleep, because when you go to bed, you get a lot of ideas. It's like, oh, I'm gonna write down this line for lyric, and also maybe I should record this. And you have like ideas that you have to tune out to go to sleep. This is something you have to learn to function in a society as an adult.
Yeah. I meant to ask this question earlier, but lyrical themes, do you sing about anything in particular, or do you have a lyrical narrative that you follow, so to speak?
No, I write, it's very different what I write about. Of course, relationships and the destructive relationship the humans have to the environment, and obviously things that go on in the world, but also just ideas. You read a book and you get spinning on an idea. For example, Exoskeleton, that song is about turning into an exoskeleton creature. If you split a stone open and some liquid comes out on your fingers, this will transform you into an exoskeleton being. I thought maybe it would start with your nails, and your nails would sort of grow and take over your arm.
Yeah.
And this came from, surprise, Kafka. I read the book, The Metamorphosis.
Okay.
And I actually forgot to read the most famous line when they tell you he's turning into like a beetle or something. So somehow I missed that. I don't know how. So when I read, I was like, what is happening? This is so inspiring. What is he turning into? And I missed that. So that got me spinning around that theme. So it varies a lot. I try to read a lot. And work with lyrics in different ways. Sometimes, as I told you, a lyric power line will just fall out from your head and mouth. And sometimes you have to really work to get something off decent.
Yeah. As I say, I can understand. Yeah. Are there any topics in general that interest you more than others? Because you're obviously intellectual, so you read a lot, but do you gravitate towards certain types of books, like sci-fi books or creative nonfiction, this sort of thing?
Yeah, I enjoy sci-fi books and dystopic fiction, like magic realism, and but sometimes also kitchen sink realism, and poems. You don't want to watch the same movie all the time, and you don't want to read the same book all the time, and you don't want to listen to the same bands really all the time. So I guess it varies a lot. It's so boring to answer like that, but yeah.
Do political themes and issues around current affairs influence your lyrics at all?
Yeah, I would say, but I like lyrics. Personally, I like lyrics that is a little bit more like a poem, in a way that it's not, you don't write anyone on the nose. There's a Swedish expression. I don't know if you have it, but that is a.
I've spoken to enough Swedes, I think, to know where it comes from. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but you don't. I don't enjoy lyrics when it's obvious this is about this, and I went on the street and I saw this guy, and then I went to. It can be. A lyric can be like that, but the lyrics that speaks to me the most is the lyrics that I can choose to think that this is for me. This is obviously about what I'm feeling and thinking, and this echoes in me. So I like lyrics that you can decide for yourself what it's about. I don't write people on the nose.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I think it hints at the fact that the world is your oyster from your intellectual perspective there, that you haven't picked any one thing like the band. Like, I'm not picking up Fear Factory here, by the way, but, Fear Factory started to write about breakups and relationships and stuff, people go, what the fuck is going on here and now? This sort of thing. But at least you've got this whole platter of things. So you're starting here, or you've started, with your debut, you're now on this great album out. But where you go to is totally up to you from here, and that includes the lyrical things.
Yeah, and I think that is also a luxury to have creative freedom. And we were lucky, of course, that the Nuclear Blast didn't want to change our sound or anything. So it is a freedom, and you have to try to channel the thought that the world is your oyster, and you ought to be knee deep in that oyster.
So good. Yeah, I love the way you frame it.
I think also because one old song from the EP is called the Febersvan. It's a more than 7 minute long song, and this song has been played a lot around the world. It's one of our most streamed songs, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And this
on Spotify.
song is about, the lyric is 2 lines. Actually, that I repeat, and I thought when I created the vocals that I think of my vocals to be the sounds of a feverish swan.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. No, that's awesome. Yeah. And there was another song. I've got to look it up now, but I did listen to it quickly. But the drunk auto pussy wants to fight you. To me, that sounded like some fuckwit in a pub when you're having a beer and you see they're trying to punch on with a bloke because they don't like your football team or something like that. Is that what I did read the lyrics, but I haven't listened to the song yet. But is that what that song's about, or what's it? What in other words, what's it about?
Well, for me, again, I can only say what it's about for me. You get to choose your story. But if you find yourself in a pub and you get mansplained a lot, can happen sometimes. And finally you go, I had enough. And you just want to deliver a knuckle sandwich.
Yeah, I thought that might have been the thing there.
But this is a mental knuckle sandwich. I don't like violence. You ought to be a lover, not a fighter. But that's the kind of energy in that song. That was the first single we ever released.
That one, was it? Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
We did
I just love the
video.
title.
Yeah, it's the if you see the cover on Spotify, it's the hook that on a wall that looks like a drunk octopus that would like to fight you.
Yes, I know. Yeah, this one. Yep.
So the drunk octopus, it's kind of
I know the one. It's a hook. Yeah, someone's protector on it. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen it a few times around town. Yeah.
Sometimes people take a photo of that hook when they find it and they tag us. That's very nice.
Right.
Like so that.
Yeah. Okay.
And that video was the first we recorded. David made the video in our band. He had a GoPro camera. Sorry, camera is a Swedish word. And we drove around our rehearsal space at the time in a tiny car. So, yeah. And in the end of that video, we have the performance and acting performance by the director guy who did all the other videos for Ra and Diametrical Enchantress and Mjölksyra. So he's actually in that video as well.
Okay, sweet. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I've seen your new videos, the videos here for Myriad, but I'll check out some of the older ones as well. Yeah, but just
it's more low key.
Yeah, I can imagine. But you brought up something interesting there, like with the mansplaining thing. Obviously being in a band with blokes as well, is that when you go to venues, or what's the circumstance there where a lot of that sort of thing happens? Is it when you go to venues and people who don't know shit, right, don't think you're in the band, this sort of thing, and they start talking to you like as if you don't know what's going on or what have you, or what's the context there?
This is not a thing that has happened a lot with Gaupa for me, the mansplaining thing, and when we play shows. But I have friends that are guitarists, women, that are guitarists, and the sound guy would come up and like, do you know where to plug this in? And they're like, yeah, I've been playing for a lot of years. And you get kind of bullied by some of the sound guys. It's like, oh, you don't know anything. So as a woman, I think it can happen sometimes that people, you need to prove yourself hard before anyone would even consider to be nice and take you serious as a musician. This is my experience, and also the experiences I know fellow women musicians have had.
That's interesting. Yeah. Oh, I play in a band with a female singer. That's all, and she does. And she and her husband and her manage the band. And I couldn't imagine anybody telling her what to do. She'd punch them out. But I mean, it sort of gets to that point.
I was in contact with Elin, who sings in Blues Pills.
Yeah.
We come from the same town, actually.
Oh, right. Okay. Sweet.
We talked about when we joined Nuclear Blast, and she was like, "Oh yeah, don't take any shit." That was her, and I think that's important to remember. That just try to own it and don't take shit from anyone. But that goes for girls and boys, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's interesting. I had I've been doing this for 5 years or so, and I know quite a lot of the musicians. So when I say no, we do this and then we keep in touch over email or whatever. And but one of the members of a more prominent band who I wasn't mates with, didn't know him from a bar. So I just saw him in the venue and I asked him where the other bloke was, who I do know quite well, and he more or less told me to fuck off. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, isn't it? That rock star thing even exists within what we do. And he doesn't know me from a bar of soap. And I'm not saying I've got a platform, but I kind of have a little bit of a one. And it
shouldn't matter. You ought to be kind. You ought to be nice to people.
I know.
At least try. So I think it shouldn't matter if you play in a big band or a small demo band, or if you do the sound. Everyone ought to be kind. I think it's not that hard to try to be a little bit kind.
I tend to agree. Don't worry. It actually put a dampener on the rest of the night, to be honest with you, because as a band I was truly looking forward to seeing. And I caught up with the fellow who I know quite well. But it was like one of those moments where I was like, I met heaps of guys backstage and, out and about in town and stuff, and they've all been called this one guy. And I'm thinking, God, that's not a bad strike rate, though, 1 in 700. So I think I'm more just saying this for context for the people when they listen, like I think to your point, like you got to stand up for yourself. But in my experience, most people, almost everybody, are very cool. And it's just when that one thing happens, you go, wow, shit. And you sort of more appreciate the relationships and the experiences and the interactions you have with the other people that are cool because of it. And but I just to close the envelope on that point about ladies and musicians. Yeah, it's very weird that there's any bloke out there, even girls, who might think that chicks shouldn't be on stage or part of the machinery of what it is that we do. Because in my experience, I mean, look at just about every death metal band or black metal band or whatever these days. There's so many women that are doing it these days. It's a redundant statement to say that this is a bloke's thing, because it's definitely observably not.
No, and I think girls are kind of raised to compete with each other. If one girl is a great singer, one girl is allowed to be a great singer, and this is bullshit. Because if I'm a good singer and another girl is a good singer, that doesn't make me any less of a good singer if someone else also is good. But somehow we're raised to believe that it's a competition, and it's not.
No, it most certainly isn't. That's very strange, isn't it, to your point, that there is a hierarchy that exists out there where people like to classify one's better than another or what have you. Like we're all, we all have 5 beers and go, oh, this is my favourite band and Morbid Angel or whatever. I do that, but I've never looked at it from a perspective that one vocalist is technically more superior than the other, because some of the best vocalists sing stuff that they don't use all of their vocal ranging. So how can you say someone's the best vocalist? Like Ripper Owens, fantastic vocalist, and one of the best vocalists I've ever seen live, for example. But I've probably seen many like him, just from the perspective that there are many that can do what he does, but they choose to play more gruff music or what have you. So yeah, it's look, I think the older you get, what I find is the older you get, the more accepting of things you become. Certainly, I do. And
hopefully you calm down a bit with age, and you try to you appreciate also kindness. When you're younger, it's like, oh, this is a very kind person. It's like, oh, that's really boring to say about someone, but it's not. It's fantastic review of a person if someone is kind, I would say.
Oh, the older you get,
I agree with you.
Sorry, interrupted.
No, I agree with you. No, it's okay. Sorry, I do that as well. But I think Mark Lanigan was a fantastic vocalist, one of my favorites, and just a really good voice. It doesn't have to be thousands of things happening, vocal techniques and everything. It's just very, very soothing voice to listen to. It's just one example of what you were talking about.
Yeah, Rivers Cuomo. No, you're right, though. Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, same thing, a band that I've loved for years. You know, they're not exactly hard rock or metal or what have you. I suppose they're hard rock in some ways. But, it just depends on your emotive state at the time, too, and what you reach for. And God help me for saying this to a vocalist, but a lot of the music I listen to these days is instrumental or is classical in my own time, especially mainly because I work here. I work from here. I'm a journalist, so I work at home. Yeah. And I can't work with a lot of music that has lyrics in it because I tend to stop what I'm doing and focus on that too much. Classical and instrumental music, on the other hand, particularly music that doesn't have drums, I tend to find droning on in the background is fantastic. Just gets everything going, especially because I'm doing my master's at the moment too. So the study really helps me on that front as well.
Oh yeah. I can't listen to music if I'm to read something. I cannot listen to music because I sort of and then I just space out. I need to sit down and read.
Hey, this is a left of centre question, but I like asking all of the people that I talk to from Scandinavia this one here, okay? Because it's an observable fact. It's hard not to notice that Scandinavia, so the three nations of, and I suppose Finland too, but Denmark, Sweden and Norway, punch well above their weight as a region in terms of musical output, rock, metal, mainly rock and metal, and indeed some of the best rock and metal. Here I go. I'm saying best when it's a subjective term, but anyway, the reality is that without Sweden, Norway, Denmark, but Sweden in particular, actually talking about In Flames, bands that you may have heard of, like In Flames and Dark Tranquillity, this sort of thing. Metal and rock may not have emerged. It may have re-emerged after the doldrums of the 90s, but it wouldn't have re-emerged the way that it did. Now, to this day, like I'm talking to you, you're from Sweden. I've been to uni with students that come from Sweden, all rock and metal fans, but when I say normal, like us, you know, can have a conversation, all the rest of it. It's just one aspect of their life. What's your take on growing up in Sweden and being surrounded by, there's just so many possibilities for you to be in such great rock and metal bands there. It's just one of those regions, probably the only region in the world at the moment where there's a higher and stronger probability of you emerging in a great rock or metal band than any other place on the planet.
All right, I didn't know. Now, I guess we have. I have to think how to translate what I will say. We have I don't know the words. So sorry.
You're right.
But we have the opportunity to play music. I met someone from the United States that told me it was very strange to be a musician and don't read music, like cheap music. And I don't, for example. David in our band, he does. He's a music teacher as well. But I think to just create in a rehearsal space. We have this in Sweden because there is studieförbund. It's like study unities that is not part of an actual school.
Okay.
That you can join, and you can have a rehearsal space through them. And this helps. I ought to Google this for you. Studieförbund. This is something I have to practice to say in English, because apparently I'm at a loss of words. But I think also there is in the pandemic, a lot of venues closed down and a lot of rehearsal space. There is a lack of rehearsal spaces now. And this is dangerous, because I think it's very important for kids and adults to, hey, we're going to start a band. And not everyone has a house or owns a garage where you can rehearse. So you need a place to plug in and scream your lungs out. And I think if you get to do that, and then it comes natural to start writing songs, and then you have a band. Because if you want to be, there's a lot of fast tracks. You can be on a reality show and they look for a singer or bands. But I think the way to go is to just rehearse with some friends that are interested in playing music and keep at it, because you will be better, and then you have a greater chance to get your music out in the world, because you have to practice and be a shitty band for a lot of years. And then maybe you do something decent. And today it's easier to get your music out. Remember when you were to download like one song and it took 24 hours?
I remember.
And if someone lifted like the phone, it
take
would
the phone off the receiver, cut out. Did it overnight. You used to have to do it overnight.
Yeah. So nowadays people can easily get hold of. You can type in like 70s rock music on Spotify, and you will have like a smörgåsbord, a platter of different bands.
There you go. Yeah.
And it's easier for people to have like a home recording studio through your laptop. And then you can record demos. So I think in that way, we're lucky to be around at this time where the technology has come so far for each individual.
I think I'm with you too. I think there's something else though too, which is what I've observed through the conversations that I've had with all these guys. I've chatted to all these guys in Flames and other bands from Sweden, and it's just something in the cultural lexicon in Sweden and Scandinavia in general, which tends to lean people more toward rock and metal. And I think it's a wonderful thing, because it doesn't happen here. It's all bloody hip hop here these days and stuff, which is
right.
Australia's interesting, because we tend to. I know what our image is abroad, but it's not what it is when you come here. You'll see that there is parts of it that are like Crocodile Dundee or what have you, but it's most of us have to live in the cities because it's so bloody hot everywhere. It's just too arid. You can't live anywhere else except for the cities, and unless you're working on the land or working in agriculture or something like that. So consequently, I think 85 to 90% of our population live in cities. And so that means that we're trend driven, because we're very much based on whatever the internet's doing. So there's some killer metal bands. It's not that, but they're not it's very rare for an Australian metal band to be able to sort of break out of Australia and say then go overseas. They're psychroptic, but they've been around for like 25 years. Okay.
But I think also, no, I was just going to say, I think also that my band, for example, is not very well known in Sweden. And we don't have this, we don't have a lot of venues to play live show at, and people don't go out on a Sunday to listen to a random band at a pub or something. We don't have that in Sweden. But I think there was a documentary about metal from Sweden, and that it's doing a lot better abroad. And Madeleine Rock on our TV, a Swedish TV station made a documentary about this. So so I guess this is something a regular Swedish person wouldn't know a lot about, that we have a lot of bands that is way more appreciated and bigger in other countries.
Yes. Okay. I thought that might have been the case too, but you don't know until somebody tells you who's actually living there and part of the culture itself. Because you can read shit, but then who knows what narrative the journalist is trying to promote there? Yeah.
Yeah. I have only my perspective, of course. So another guy would tell you something else.
I think I've had all sorts of answers to it, but I think ultimately, being from that part of the world, it's just a characteristic that there are a lot more rock and metal appreciators there, and therefore bands. It's just one of those things, and more power to you, because the music that's coming out of there at the moment, like you guys, and there's Overterium, Marcus Shadell, fantastic guitarist, one of the best guitarists in the world at the moment, from the perspective that he's innovating, but he's still got that blues template. There's Blues Pills you're talking about. There's a band from Norway called Pristine, who were also on Nuclear Blast as well, who were very good. There's almost too many, really, when you dive into it. It's like, how much can your attention span hold? And the answer is, well, only so few. But you sort of, in my position, I try to give everything a chance. And that's why I have the music show, because I've gotten feedback.
That's a talent. That's a talent as well, to give everything a chance. For me, if someone would hey, check out this band, and I'm not in the right mood, it's not a good idea to check it out, because it would be completely lost on me. But if I'm feeling like, I want to check out this new band, doesn't matter what kind of band it is. It's mindset, and you got it apparently if you are very open to new music. And I think people. For me, you should be in a certain mood to check out new music. So you're open to it and can really give it a good listen.
I'm probably so far toward that these days that I can't even listen to the older bands anymore. I've just gotten sick of them. I respect them, like Megadeth, Iron Maiden and stuff, but I don't want to listen to their new material. I want to listen to you guys. So I've gotten to a point now where I can listen to the new Megadeth album for 30 seconds, and I'm like, I grew up listening to Megadeth. I don't need to hear it, and it's okay, but it's not Countdown to Extinction or Euthanasia or whatever, the stuff that I loved back in the day. So I just sort of feel, I had my time with it, I'm going to let the kids move on. But the weird thing, and I've talked about this a lot on the show, is that the few gigs that I go to that are all ages, so the festival shows, I don't go to many of them, but the amount of 12-year-olds that are wearing the same band T-shirt that I wore when I was 12. So, Megadeth's or Morbid Angel, or not Morbid Angel, sorry, but the thrash band, Metallica, this thing in particular, Judas Priest, this sort of stuff. And it's like, man, get your own bands, get Gaupa, get these bands that are part of your generation. They've had to go. Judas Priest and Iron Maiden aren't even really my generation. I'm in my mid-40s. They're sort of just before me, I got into them at the tail end of Bruce when he was in them the first time around. And I love the band, but I had my moment with them, and I'm prepared. I've just sort of prepared to move on and embrace new music. And I do feel like some rock and metal fans, they do that at the expense. They stick to the old bands at the expense of the new.
That could be the case. I thought about what you said about the band T-shirts like Nirvana or Black Sabbath or Metallica. Yeah. You can actually buy these T-shirts at H&M. And to me, that is a little bit strange, because you're supposed to. When I was younger, you couldn't get hold of on a band T-shirt that easily. Me and my friend, we went to Stockholm and navigated around small rock shops, and there you can buy a T-shirt. And you were so cool in your T-shirt. But nowadays, it's like. Some kids might think that these bands are like a fashion brand. I don't know.
I think that goes on a little bit. Well, back in the day, there was specialist music stores like Utopia in Sydney and Rocking Horse in Brisbane. And apart from that, you had to go to the gig. and buy the tour T-shirt. That was it.
Yeah.
You couldn't when U2 went through town, you'd see all these kids wearing a U2 T-shirt the next month or two afterwards, or Metallica or Nirvana. To your point, there's a famous story about Nirvana. Nirvana toured Australia when they just exploded, so beginning in 1992. And they played I'm not saying small venues, but they certainly weren't stadiums. They were halls and some pubs. And some of the pubs only have like a capacity of, say, 2,000 people. Well, apparently 100,000 people went to those shows because that's all of the people that say that they were there and they bought the T-shirt. The point is, people love the nostalgia of this shit and say, "Oh, I was there." And it's like, no, you weren't. Like, sorry, but like, I was around back then and I couldn't have been fucked going. Excuse my language, but it's. I remember Nirvana coming through town and I was like, another Here Today band gone tomorrow. Because that's what it felt like at the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But, then it sort of
caught on. You cannot tell at the moment. No one knew that they were going to be like legends later.
No.
And if you read about, I read the Mark Lanigan biography. Yeah. I don't know if it's called Sing Backwards and Weep or something like that.
I think I've heard of it, yeah. I should check it out.
I read it and I really enjoyed it. And he talks about Nirvana and also Nick Cave and just people who he crosses paths with. It's very interesting because for him and his perspective, it's just regular people playing in different bands, and now it's sort of, Nirvana is a legend, so you cannot tell when it's happening sometimes.
Yeah. I was reading a book or a statement by somebody. Who was it? It was somebody who was in those scenes. It might have been Buzz Osborne from the Melvins or somebody like that. But they're like, these people are your heroes, but they're actually my friends, and a lot of them are dead now. And like Chris Cornell and Mark Lanigan and Kurt Cobain, and there's many others that are no longer with us. Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. That whole scene had a bloody awful mortality rate when you think about it.
That's true.
Yeah, it was very well. It's whether it was a depressive scene or what have you, but it was. A lot of them didn't reach 50. A shitload of them didn't reach 50, and way more than, say, when you look at, say, rock bands or what have you, other rock genres, if you like. But it was an interesting era. Having lived through it, it's an eternal source of fascination to me because I see how people reinvent that era now. So it's almost 30 years ago, and I see how people talk about it, particularly in Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, and I go and check out their Twitter bio, and they're like 24, 25. I'm thinking, you weren't even alive back then. It must have been like when I was a kid and reading what the 60s were like.
Yeah.
By people who weren't alive back then or around back then to experience it. So they're sort of taking other people's perspective and co-opting it in some way. And look, people forget, and here's the important point. When Nirvana were at their biggest, Pearl Jam, etc., the people that were topping the charts were still Boyz II Men, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion. It was this shit that was number one. It wasn't those bands. Like, they might have had a number one for a little bit, but then it got bumped off very quickly by this other stuff. Like, it's still a fringe. It's still on the periphery. It just, a lot of people write about it, and that's the point.
Yeah. But that's very interesting because if you think about the concept of success, what is success? Is it to be on top of the chart, or is it to have a lot of money, or is it to be, I don't know, to do what you love? It comes down to that. And what we do, the most important thing, as we talked about before, is that you do it because you need to do it. And I think this is something you have to value as a success as well. And people don't in general, because it often comes down to money or influence that, topping a chart or something. People can relate to that as a successful thing.
Yeah, too many people, to your point. Yeah, they don't see success as the fact that you're actually doing it. And you guys are certainly doing it.
And you too.
I'm trying, yeah. I would have loved to have done what you did, but I'm way beyond it now. Like, I've got kids and stuff. It's beyond. It's never. I tried, believe me, but it was Australia. I was told. I Bob Daisley. Bob Daisley was in Ozzy Osbourne's band and Uriah Heep and stuff. He's from Sydney. He's an Australian bloke, and I got to talk to him a couple of times over the phone. When he was doing producing and some lessons and stuff. And I remember when I would have been 24 even at the time, and he goes, I don't think he said. I'm going to paraphrase him here. But he said, look, if you want to make it, you've got to leave Australia. You can't. It's not going to happen. You've got to go to London, New York, or Los Angeles and just try your hard, because that's what he did, and he made it. He did it. He left, bloke from Sydney, got into a plane. He's got his biography out there. He had the feeling of remorse in the air, flying over, to London, going, shit, what the hell have I done? It's going to cost me a fortune. And it didn't happen for years for him, but then it happened. So you got to be in it. You got to be in it to win it. But you guys don't have to do that because it's obviously already happening for you. So I'll wrap things up, but I want to leave you with this final question. So touring, you mentioned that you're touring next year. Is it in May or thereabouts? So will that possibly involve coming to Australia and the United States as well?
Not in May next year, unfortunately. That's an all Europe tour, but we would love to go to Australia, of course, and we would love to go to the United States, of course. We'd like to go everywhere and play shows because it's there's a different nerve, I would say, when you attend a live show. It might not be on record. You can do a lot, and you want to produce good records, but you want to have the live feeling, the nerve that comes with playing a live show. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that is something very special to all of us, to be able to perform and meet people as well that are happy and want to listen to what we do and get to talk to people. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
so
it is indeed.
Hopefully you can come.
Fingers crossed we see you guys down here. You certainly deserve to have a decent tour book or a show booked, and to be able to come down here and play the major cities if you like, because I'd love to see you guys live. To experience what you guys are doing on album live, I think would be something special.
It was so nice to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for wanting to talk with me.
I was looking forward to it. No, I love the band, so I was looking forward to it. I said that to John. I was like, yeah, these guys are good. I'm definitely. when your name came up, I was like, yeah, definitely. I was really hoping. There's a few bands that on the roster that came up, so really thank you for the chat, and God bless, and I hope everything comes. I hope everything that you work hard for happens for you.
Yeah, same to you.
No worries. All right. Ciao. Thank you.
And have a good night.
Yeah, you have a great rest of the day.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
So there you have it. I told you it was a special chat. That was Emma Näslund from the Swedish outfit Gaupa. The album is titled Myriad, and I encourage you to go along to Spotify. It'll be released on November 18th, actually, incidentally, 2022. Should add the year, just in case you're listening to this sometime in the distant future. The album is an absolute cracker. It will for sure be in my top 10 year-end 2022 list. Who knows who else will make it? But Gaupa are assured of a place. Now, if you liked that chat, there are some more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. Click on the link in the banner as well, because if you like reading, you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice and you can download a sample of my book. So if you like listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast, maybe you'd like to read the book as well. So I've got some more information about the book to share with you. That'll be coming up soon. But before we go and have a listen to that, I want to bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.